I've joined the Rawvolution at Naturaw because I know that not all raw food is created equal. I'm passionate about feeding dogs as nature intended. After all, you are what you eat, and so is your dog. At Naturaw, there are no compromises, no confusion, just real raw food made with integrity and a conscience, offering 100% transparency, supporting British farmers, and only using the highest welfare assured ingredients is so important. They're a certified B Corp and reduce their carbon footprint by utilizing solar power and planting trees. They only use completely plastic-free packaging that's home compostable. Prudence and Mr. Binks are simply loving their nutrient-dense and balanced recipes. So try Naturaw today. Just go to naturaw.co.uk and grab 20% off your first purchase with my code AnnaWebb20. Join the Rawvolution and feed exceptional raw food. Hi, I'm Anna Webb, and welcome to A Dog's Life. This week, we're talking to canine nutrition and behaviour expert Emily Breslin, who's over in the Midwest across the pond. And this episode is, of course, powered by Antonov. Emily Breslin, welcome to A Dog's Life.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Anna.
Well, I feel we've got lots in common. I mean, I know you're across the pond and where you are at the moment, you were just saying how lovely the weather is. I only wish it was as lovely here because it's awful.
We got really lucky. It is dead of winter here in Iowa. It's supposed to be, zero below and all that good stuff, but it's about 45 degrees today, so it's lovely and I'll take it.
Gosh, yeah, take it while you can. Honestly, I say, Now, Emily, gosh, I feel, as I say, we've got loads in common. You're a canine nutritionist and a lot more, I think.
Yes, canine nutritionist. I'm also a dog trainer and I was a vet tech for many years. I also ran a pet sitting and dog walking business for I think 10 or 12 years as well.
Wow, gosh. So you've met a lot of wonderful doggies in your time.
Yes, yes, so many.
I bet. You've got, so what, tell me, it's on your Instagram grid, there's a gorgeous little white Chihuahua, or is he a Chihuahua mix?
He's a Chihuahua mix. That's Toby. He is my 14 or 15-year-old Chihuahua Terrier mix. He's Chihuahua, Pomeranian, Lhasa Apso, and a couple of different kinds of, I think it's Cairn Terrier and Rat Terrier.
Oh, really? Gosh, I love these DNA tests, actually. I mean, I actually do take many of them with a pinch of salt. I must admit. Although with him, I mean, I don't see the Pomeranian in him, funnily enough, but I see the rat terrier.
It's the hair. It's the hair and his chest. If you were to hold him, you would see that, kind of, I call it like a lion chest that Pomeranians have, that big round chest in front, and then it kind of narrows to the waist, and then that really stiff, poofy, layered hair that Pomeranians have. It's just all white, so you can't really see the Pomeranian.
Oh, he's gorgeous. And who are your other little people that you have?
My other dog is Fitz, and he's the red and white one that's on my Instagram, and he's about 60 pounds, depending on the day. And he is a border collie mix. He's got quite a few working breeds in him, along with American Eskimo. And um, he's kind of my reason for everything. I mean, I was a vet tech long before I had him and a pet sitter long before I had him, but he is the reason that I became a dog trainer and a canine nutritionist, and he's also the reason that I started my podcast.
Oh, well, thank goodness he came into your life.
Yes, yes, he really changed it and it was all for the better for sure.
So with nutrition, I mean, what is it like across the pond in terms of what vets might recommend to pet parents and what you might recommend to pet parents? And is it a bit like it is here where, the vets are very adamant still to prescribe prescription diets? That's their ideal model, really, for all people to feed their dogs.
Yes, it is very much the same. There you will find some vets who are a lot more open to holistic feeding, I guess we could call it. Some people don't feed all the way raw. They still feed some kibble, or maybe they lightly cook their food. Those are generally the people that I like to try to help and work with because uh, kibble is the standard here. It is the thing that everybody pushes. And unfortunately, here with our guidelines under AFCO, there really isn't any regulation and there isn't a whole lot of truth on dog food bags, as I'm sure you're well aware. A lot of it's marketing. And so there's just a lot of misinformation out there. And I really am trying to focus 2026 on educating about dog nutrition and helping people see past the marketing on dog food labels. Because whether you decide to feed kibble, whether you decide to feed raw, whether you feed a combination, there's always something to learn about it.
Absolutely. No, I'm a great believer also, actually. I mean, I'm very much on the raw food feeding side of the fence, I will say. I love that. I feel it's what dogs are born to eat. But I'm also really aware, that not all raw food is created equal at all. It's very important to make that difference. Meats are very different, they come from different places. Not all farmers are the same, not all land is the same. So, it is quite a minefield, I think, for people to really get their heads around all of this, particularly if they're first time dog owners. Would you agree?
Oh, I completely agree. I just think that veterinarians they go to school for a purpose, right? They go to school to take care of our animals, to give vaccines, to do spays and neuters, to perform surgeries when they have an injury or an accident or an emergency, things like that. But they don't really focus on nutrition here in America. They're only required to have between 1 and 3 hours of nutrition education in America at veterinary school. So your vet doesn't know as much as a certified nutritionist is going to know because they don't have to. And that's why specialties exist, right? Like you wouldn't go to an eye doctor to get your foot checked. That's just not how it works. So
That's
it's
so
kind of the
funny.
same thing.
That actually has really made me laugh, actually. That's such a good way of describing it. No, it's very much the same here, actually, in terms of vets. That's what I call them, not veterinarians, vets. They do study here for 6 hours. They do like a day, I understand. And these sessions are sponsored by, either Royal Canin, which is Mars over here, I don't know, or Science Plan, which is, I'm pretty sure it's run by Colgate. So talking big, big, big companies, and
Hmm.
that's all great, but we have vets that we have holistic vets here. I don't know. I think, well, I definitely know that you do as well over in the pond, over the pond. The likes of Dr. Karen Becker over there, Dr. Peter Tobias, who might ring bells with you. These are
Hmm.
vets over in the States that, I know. And of course, these vets all champion feeding whole, fresh, really, in the bowl. Can be lightly cooked, of course, or raw. I mean, for me, I just think cooking food is known to take nutrients out of food, whether it's for people or for dogs. So, yeah, I don't know what do you think about that?
So for meat, definitely. It's definitely, it does reduce the amount of nutrients. But oddly enough, because dogs don't necessarily require vegetables, things like, oh, I'm so sorry, Fitz is barking.
Oh,
Um,
don't worry, we don't mind barking. Oh, I hear him. Oh gosh, he's got a
he,
big bark, hasn't
he
he?
does. He has a big bark. So for vegetables and things, you actually need to cook them. So, lightly blanch or steam things like carrots, broccoli, your really big leafy greens, because for a dog to get any kind of value or nutrients out of a vegetable like that, it has to be cooked, which is so strange, but that's how it works.
Yeah, no, I take on board that. But then dogs will also, eat grasses, just nibbling them when they're out and about. They'll pick, I mean, my bull terrier will pick blackberries, off
Hmm.
bushes when we're out and about. I do believe, that if we think, our dogs are little wolves, wolves will dig for sort of roots maybe to eat. I'm sure they're nibbling on various fruits that they can get hold of a little bit, even though they are definitely carnivores. So I think it's a mix. I'm happy to go with cooking some veggies, although I wouldn't do it. But I think that's the wonderful thing about nutrition. It's a big conversation.
It is a big conversation. And again, I don't think that it's like you said, I don't think that it's all things. Like berries and things like that, you don't have they would find that out in the wild, right? But most of the time, if a dog's not going to go into a garden and dig out a broccoli, that's you know what I mean? I think that's maybe where the distinction comes in, is be something that they would be more naturally inclined to eat on their own. They're going to benefit more if it's raw.
Yes, yeah, 100%, 100%. But yeah, I mean, do you find that objections from pet parents, are in things like, I can't bear to see any blood, or, you might have vegan pet parents that feel that their ethics should be transferred to their dog. And we're seeing that quite a bit over here at the moment, for example. Similarly, vegetarians. How do you get vegan people to feed raw or meat generally?
Well, I think that again, it's a very convoluted conversation again, right? Because you have to kind of break it down in many parts. And I think that while people can survive on different types of proteins, like you said, dogs were not made for that. Their bodies were not introduced to those things. And just like dog food, right? Carbohydrates are in dog foods. Dogs do not need carbohydrates. They have 0% qualific like need, I guess is the word I'm looking for. They have 0% need for carbohydrates in their daily diet, and yet we feed it to them regularly. And that's how we make our dogs fat. So by finding what is considered a species appropriate diet, that's how we make sure that they're eating the right things. And if we're giving them things like lots of potatoes or lots of beans, we can actually do damage to their bodies and cause them to have, deficiencies or uh, get some sort of health problems or digestive issues and things like that, because we're putting so much starch and sugar and things again in their body that meat isn't going to have. And so I think it's really about breaking down those ingredients and talking about why they don't benefit the dog versus you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But nevertheless, no, it's only because I've recently been speaking to a vegan and, you know, um, absolutely, did not go down very well. There we go. And that's absolutely fine. It's not my dog.
I think that's really a hard decision to make for a dog. I don't know. I just think that we have so much control over what we decide for our dogs. And I think that, their meal time is probably one of the most joyful parts of their day. So we should do everything that we can to make sure that it's not only nutritional and fulfilling for them, but that it's something that they actually really, really enjoy. Because a lot of times dogs eat the same thing every single day in most traditional dog family homes. And I just think that limiting what they can have is it's kind of unfair because their world is so limited already.
No, I hear you. I hear you. That's true. It's our duty of care. And of course, by feeding dogs what nature intended them to eat, you can offset, as you say, disease and illness, which of course is going to save you money at the end of the day,
Hmm.
putting it bluntly, at the vets. Pancreatitis, for example, there's so much myth around pancreatitis that it's caused from too much fat. But actually, from my learning, it's caused from too much carbs and not enough amylase in a dog's digestive system to cope with it, which then sets the pancreas out of sync. Would you agree?
So it's really funny that you bring that up because Toby actually had pancreatitis for years and years. And he is the main reason that I started really starting to research kibble and what was in it and how we could feed better because Fitz was a picky eater, so was constantly just trying to figure out what he would eat. And for Toby, it was like if we strayed from a diet at all, he would have vomiting, he would have diarrhea and all of the things. And honestly, since he has been switched over to raw for about a year now, not a single pancreatic flare up at all.
That's amazing. Are you kind of watching the percentage of the fat in certain meats, and choosing certain meats? For example, venison, deer has a much lower wild caught animals obviously have sounds all a bit grim, doesn't it? But they have a lower fat content than many farmed animals, for example.
Yeah, so with raw, I actually rotate proteins every single month. So every 28 days, they get a different main protein and then they get a different bone protein. So we kind of experiment a little bit, and I work directly with a butcher, a local butcher, who makes sure that we get lean cuts and make sure that we have animals that are eating, organically and cleanly. And occasionally, just because of the area that I'm in, he will say, hey, we have an elk, or hey, we have deer, or hey, we have a moose, or we imported some kangaroo, or whatever. And so we'll try different things, which I think is really, really fun because, again, that brings that variety in for them and they get to try a bunch of different things. And I get to see what they really, really, really enjoy. But because I'm able to have that much control over it, we haven't had any issues with, the meat being too fatty or anything because I am able to say, "Hey, it can't be too fatty, it can't be too greasy." We try to stay away from like duck because it tends to be so greasy, and we haven't really done any rabbit either. But that's I think that's a preference thing more than a we shouldn't try it thing.
No, no, no. I love all of this because, of course, yes, variety and novel proteins is so important because every meat has its own spectrum, if you like, of nutrition. So interesting, actually.
Hey, Anna.
Hey, Mike.
So we've just finished Billy's first 60 days of Antinol, and wow, what a difference.
Really? Oh my gosh, what have you noticed?
Well, he's shinier. He's much more energetic. Not that he wasn't beforehand, but you can see the difference. But remember, I told you he used to have that little limp in his back left paw that he'd hurt himself when he was a pup. But he
Yes,
doesn't seem
yes.
to do that much anymore.
What, the hop, skip, and the jump?
Yeah, yeah. So it's like his joints are a bit better. And we actually had friends around this weekend who'd noticed that there was something good about Billy. And I was telling them about Antinol, and they said, "Oh, what's in it?" I said, "Well, green lip mussel." And they said, "What's that?" And I go, "Oh, well, I don't know. I'll have to ask Anna," as I always do. So
Well,
for next
green
time, what should I say? What's so great
well,
about green lip mussel?
well, green-lip mussel, it comes from New Zealand. It's the only place that green-lip mussels live. And what's great about the green-lip mussel is that it is what's known as a broad spectrum source of omega 3. And the reason dogs need to take omega 3 is that their bodies don't make it themselves. So, unless they're getting it through, their diet, which can be omega 6 heavy. And it's very important to have a balance between omega 6 and omega 3. So it's normally through supplements that omega 3 is given. And green lip mussel is unique in its having everything from EPA, DHA, and ETA. So all the main omega 3s.
And how about Binks and Prudence? They must be much better as well.
Yeah, well, they've been on it for over a year and they've been on green lip mussel forever since I've had them. So Prue's 10 now. So she's had green lip mussel since the first day I brought her home, to be honest, but not Antinol. And I only wish I'd discovered Antinol earlier. I really honestly mean that, because it's an oil rather than a powder. So its bioavailability, that means, its effectivity to get absorbed quickly and efficiently by the body, is greater.
So people listening now and they want to discover Antinol for themselves, where do they go?
Well, all you have to do is go to Antinol, ANTINOL.co.uk, and then type in Anna Webb and get your special discount. How do people, when you're helping them, change their eating habits for their dog? I mean, are people ever, a bit resilient to this, or find it kind of weird to switch from the convenience? You see, people say to me, or a friend that said to me for years, Anna, when will feeding raw be convenient? And we'd have this conversation every Christmas for about 5 years. Okay. And I'm so pleased that in the last 2 months, finally, I've converted them to, because I go, no, but it is convenient. There's nothing difficult about it. It's like it arrives in lovely packaging, and then you put it into the freezer, and then you just thaw, and then put it in the bowl. Because I'm not a great one for cooking and, doing all of that. Actually, I like to keep my life quite simple. I don't cook a lot at all, actually. Certainly, I would never cook for my dogs. I actually don't think you need to. But anyway, in terms of this convenience thing, is this ever a big problem for you?
So, when I work with people on an individual basis, what I do is I give them the option to create 3, 6, or 12-month meal plans. And based on what they tell me, what their limitations are for cost, if they would like to be on half kibble, half raw, or if they want to go all the way, if they want to meal prep themselves, if they want it pre-made, all the things. And then I do all of the research, and then I figure out the exact amounts, and I tell them what they need to buy. I help them find sourcing, or, a brand that will work for them, and just really help them figure out what it is. And a lot of times what I see is they'll start out really simply. They just want to add a few things here and there to the bowl, and then they'll progress. Now, I don't buy the prepackaged stuff. As I said, I work with a butcher, so I meal prep for my dogs for 28 days, and I work with a butcher to have it all, cut up properly or ground up, and then I divvy it out and freeze it in separate containers. So I just pull it out of the freezer, the same thing, pull it out of the freezer, thaw it, and give it to them. But there are, unfortunately, some brands of the raw frozen foods that, again, because of standards and AFCO and marketing and things like that, that actually have carbohydrates in them. And if you don't know how to do the research on that, you're just going to be giving your dog the frozen so-called raw version of kibble. And that's, problematic as well.
Gosh, that sounds a bit scary. I mean, I think over here, the raw varies absolutely. There's some that isn't organic. There's some that brings the meat in from mainland Europe, so it's not supporting British farmers, so you've got no provenance on the meat and so on. Others, of course, the cheaper meats and whatever, you don't know, is it laced with antibiotics and steroids and the like. So there's all of that aspect. But gosh, so hang on, but I don't understand how raw could be like kibble. Does it mean that it's got stuff like rice in it and lentils and things?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
No,
That's
we're lucky.
exactly what it means.
Oh, okay. I think one brand, actually, we don't name, obviously, does a bit of that in the UK. It's not one that I would recommend. But yes, you do have to be very, very careful. I mean, absolutely. And also some brands are white labeled, which I'm sure you have. Yeah, exactly. So, it is a minefield, and it is wonderful, don't you think, to help people. I find such joy in helping people find the right brand for their dog. And obviously different dogs, different sizes of dogs, they like different textures, and some raw is more chunky, some is more smooth. So it's a big thing. But unfortunately, we don't have many butchers really that you can work with like you've got. I think you sound very lucky to be able to work with an actual supplier close to the food chain.
Yeah, it is very lucky, and I love it. I mean, that's one of the great things about living in the Midwest is because it is farm state, right? Like there's farms everywhere, and the Midwest is known for its cattle and its pigs and all of the things. So if you're looking to purchase meat for anywhere in the United States, you're going to be purchasing from the Midwest. And so it does make the cost a little bit better too, which is also very, very nice. And having that one-on-one relationship with the butcher is incredible. But as you said, I completely agree. I love helping people help their dogs find joy in their meals. One of my favorite things about feeding raw is actually watching Fitz figure out how to eat the item, like watching him eat, chicken backs or maybe chicken feet or maybe some lamb ribs, things like that, where he can just kind of chew them up and just watching him have to think about it and that satisfaction, but also that mental enrichment that he gets from it at the same time. It's just fascinating to me.
No, I love that. And that, of course, touches on raw bones, which many vets, are very anti giving to dogs, because they might chip the teeth or they might ground the teeth down. But that's part of it. Dogs are allowed to use their teeth as they were
Hmm.
meant to be used for. It is what you say, the contentment. I think when a dog is chewing on a bone, there's a real deep contentment. And of course, science does say that it promotes endorphin release as well, chewing as well as cleaning teeth. And so it's just like a really good enrichment activity to offer, I think.
It really is. It's a phenomenal enrichment activity. And I was a vet tech for a really long time
Oh,
and I
yeah.
was indoctrinated into the don't feed raw. It'll make your dogs, aggressive. It'll make your dogs act dominant. It will, cause this rift between you and your dogs and they might get violent and don't give them bones and don't do this. I mean, I heard all of that and I subscribed to it for many years because I didn't know better. They don't teach you that. And when I decided to get certified and get my certification in nutrition, and I learned all of these things, I was like, gosh, I feel like for 10 years I was really a disservice to the veterinary community because I didn't know all of this. But you live and you learn and you find out how to do better. And I will tell you what, raw bones was a big change for me. I mean, don't ever give your dog cooked bones. You want to talk
No,
about
no, no, no.
brittle and splinters and problems with teeth and stomachs and all the things like cooked bones, that's where the problem is. But if you give them raw bones, their bodies can actually break them down and pass them, and your dog will have cleaner teeth than you have ever, ever, ever seen on a dog in your entire life.
Absolutely. No, and as they say, from an enrichment point of view, it's really interesting to kind of notice they're just their contentment with a bone and their joy at being given a bone. It's like great, a real spring in their step as they carry it off. It's like, yeah, hey, I scored highly today. It's that kind of thing. No, I love it. No, in terms of fits, he looks like quite a border collie cross, you say, and everything with a bit of Eskimo dog. Did you mention in there as
Uh-huh.
well? And there is a difference, do you think, between what you feed some smaller dogs to some larger dogs, in terms of mouth size and the like, because I've got a very small dog as well, Mr. Binks. So for bones and everything, a marrow bone is just too big for him.
Oh yeah.
So it is about adapting, I think, certain textures when you're adding into the bowl. And dogs do have different preferences. So Mr. Binks, he can't go with fish at all. That is a no-go zone. He doesn't like it at all, for example. Whereas Prudence, my bull terrier, I mean, she literally will eat anything. I mean, they're fussy she is not, which is great because fussy eaters are so difficult for pet parents.
They really are. That's how Fitz was. He was a fussy eater. He would, I'd give him his bowl of food and maybe he wouldn't eat some of it for like 2 days because he just, didn't like it. But what I ended up finding out about Fitz was that he's actually allergic to storage mites, which are found in bags of dog food. So he
Oh,
was
yes.
actually having, an allergic reaction every single time he was eating food and he wasn't feeling well. So I think picky eating gets misconstrued sometimes. There are definitely picky eaters because I mean everyone has preferences, but I also think that it's misunderstood in other ways too because as soon as we started figuring out that, the storage mites was what part of the problem was and switching over to raw, then he was no longer a picky eater. Now, Toby, on the other hand, I call him my trash compactor dog because he is also he will eat anything. It doesn't matter what it is. But Toby recently just had his remaining 8 teeth pulled. So, in order for him to eat his raw food, bones and everything has to be ground up. So, the butcher makes him like a special, almost like hamburger texture mix, and he grinds it up really, really, really thin for him. And then I spread it out for him so that he can still get the benefit of everything that's in his bowl, but it's all kind of ground up into one thing. And thank God he's not picky because, some dogs don't want their food to touch, just like people don't want their food to touch. Toby doesn't care. He'll eat it all.
Oh, bless him. That is so great, isn't it? I mean, there's not, as you say, making a meal out of mealtime and seeing your dog enjoying food it's wonderful, isn't it?
It
Uh,
really is.
mm, mm.
It
So,
really is.
and of course, making a meal out of mealtime, I always say to people with my training hat on, it's kind of the biggest training exercise you can do, regularly once a day, or if you like to feed your dog twice a day, then it's twice a day, getting your dog to sit and wait, and you put the bowl down, and you've got impulse control, hopefully under control. You wait and then release cue for the food. So you're training about 4 different cues all in one activity.
Yeah, you really can. And I have found, honestly, like I don't make either of my dogs sit and wait for their food because
No,
I have
really. Oh.
yeah, yeah. No, a lot of people do, and that's totally fine. But what I've discovered, like in our mealtime, is I have a gate, and I put the gate up, and I put one dog on one side of the fence and one dog on the other side of the fence, and I put one plate down, and then I put the other plate down, and I have found that since they actually enjoy their meals and they're regulated with their meals and they understand the schedule around their meals, they don't get excited and they don't get overstimulated and they don't jump around and things like that. And even if they do, it's not like crazy enough that it would be an issue for me. So I just kind of let them be joyful about their meal because they're not doing anything that's harmful. And most of the time, they just sit there and wait for it anyway. So I don't have to ask them to do it. So, but that's, years of training, of working around and figuring out and all of the things. So I don't necessarily believe in that kind of structure around mealtime, but a lot of people do. And again, that's a whatever you feel is right kind of situation and whatever works for your home. Now, if Fitz was jumping up on me and knocking me over while I was trying to feed him, then yeah, absolutely, I would say that would be something we need to work on. But in our home, it's just not. So I don't have a problem helping other people get there. It's just not something that's a problem in our home, I guess.
No, which is absolutely fine. I mean, that's the other thing. It is to really remember that every dog is an individual, and so is every human. And
Yeah.
finding the kind of, the path for them does have to adapt, along the way.
Oh, I completely agree. And that's so funny that you said that because one of the taglines for my podcast is every dog is different and every human is too. So that's like one of my foundational beliefs is that, you have to go with the flow and you can't treat two dogs the same. It doesn't matter if they live in the house together at the same time or if you have them 15 years apart. You're never going to have the same dog twice. Just like I'm never going to meet another Anna the same as you. That's just how the world works.
No, absolutely. Gosh, that's so funny because I didn't actually read the tagline of your podcast, but such a good segue. So explain a bit about your podcast because podcast people like podcast people.
Yeah, so my podcast is called The Dog Who Asked for More. And as I said, it's based on Fitz. He was a dog that asked for more. He asked for more in a lot of ways that I didn't understand. And I had to become a very curious learner. And I had to really kind of figure out and, as you said, adapt to what he needed and understand what he was asking for. And so my podcast is all about how dogs ask for more in different ways, because it doesn't necessarily have to be food. It can be enrichment, it can be training, it can be asking to not be a service dog anymore. It can be asking to, be with you more frequently and travel in the car. It can be so many different things that your dog is asking for, but you really have to be open to listening. And also, life with dog is not always beautiful and pretty and picturesque like we see on Instagram. And I really try to get to the root of that.
I like that because, yeah, I think social media has done a lot of harm actually in many
Hmm.
different ways. We could go on about that, but particularly where dogs are concerned, I think. And I think, the popularity I'm sure you've seen in the States through the pandemic and everything, and now the fallout of all of this, I think it's got a lot to, account for, really. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, I completely agree. I think that Instagram provides this aesthetic, candy coated lifestyle with dogs, and people don't show the hard stuff. I'm recently on my Instagram, I've been posting about how we moved and we're integrating with another dog, and Fitz has been wearing a muzzle, and I'm sharing that because it's real. And somebody needs to know that when they have that situation or they bring in a new dog, one of their dogs might need a muzzle, because that is what keeps everyone safe. And once you're properly integrated and things like that, then maybe you don't need the muzzle anymore, and maybe you do. But you shouldn't just introduce dogs and expect them to get along. It's just
Oh,
like saying, you and we get along fine, but you bring a friend over and maybe I don't like that friend the way that you do. And that's okay. We shouldn't have to. But dogs don't understand societal rules of politeness and being nice to people even though they don't like them, and then they get a little grouchy sometimes. So to be safe, it's just better to show all of the ways that we can be safe instead of just people thinking, oh, these people just brought in this new dog and everything was fine, and there's 10 dogs all eating at the same time in the same room and nobody's fighting. There's a lot of work that went into those things, and you can't just
huge.
assume that it's going to be like that.
Yeah, huge amount of work went into those 10 dogs eating in one room all in a row and waiting for the queue to take it and so on. Absolutely. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. But oh my gosh, I mean, I've so enjoyed this chat. Seriously, Emily, I'm very, very impressed with everything, and also, your honesty as well, being a vet tech and, having all of that information, and then adapting and embracing fresh and whole foods. And it's really brilliant.
Thank you so much. It's been quite a journey, and I just love dogs, and I think that they deserve better in so many ways.
Yeah, and there's a lot of research out there now. There's a lot of science to back up feeding fresh and whole and ideally raw, which wasn't there, 20 years ago. And I think people are transferring their values to eating more, which is about being healthy. So I think humans are cutting back on the ultra processed takeaways and the like, thinking, listen, for longevity and wellness, we need to eat more fruit and vegetables, for example, on the human side. Now, I want my dog to live longer. And so I think there's been a big shift lately, and this big kind of buzzword, which is hashtag wellness.
Hmm.
I can't believe how big wellness is now as a whole kind of industry.
Yeah, it really is changing. And I mean, I think that's good for humans and dogs. And I think that it's good that people are starting to become more aware of what's good for them and looking at their dogs and thinking, it would be awesome if, we could find a way to help you live a healthier, longer life. Because the one fact that I love to leave people with is that, kibble, they started feeding kibble in 1953. And before that, the average lifespan of a golden retriever was 17 to 18 years. And now here we are in 2026, and most dogs are fed kibble, and the average lifespan of a golden retriever is 10 to 12 years. So you can't tell me that it's not the food.
No, listen, gosh, I've been to the oldest pet cemetery in the world, which is just outside Paris, right? And basically, the newer the graves, so there were those graves there from sort of like 1850, and everyone always assumes that dogs back then died young. Well, I've got evidence, photo evidence to prove that that is not the case, unless everyone was lying with the age of their dogs. 17, 18, 19, and those are the old graves. And the newer the graves, the younger the dogs. It's absolutely clear. So I agree. And I also believe a lot of that is related to over medication. Again, way back, before 1940, there were no antibiotics, not for humans or dogs. And then dogs came in much later than humans. So I think it's a mixture of everything, actually, sadly. I'm very much on the naturopath side of things. We only do puppy shots, or never do an annual booster in this house. The cat, that's a stray cat, he's been tested for feline AIDS and leukemia. He's negative. I don't think he's ever had any vaccines. He still has his testicles, and they will remain for the time being. So he's not 100% yet. And I don't want to give him an anesthetic. If he died with that, I would really be sad.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just think, again, it's about understanding the pet in front of you and feeding, medicating, vaccinating the pet in front of you. And honestly, again, science for the win there with titer testing, and really trying to help people understand how that works and how you can see if your vaccines are beneficial still or not, and save your dog the hardship of being over vaccinated or spending that extra money. There really have been such amazing advancements. I just don't think they're talked about enough.
Yeah, like worm tests, so simple. I know that neither of my dogs have had worms in their life. People go, but how do you know? And I go, well, I test their poop every 3 to 6 months, How do you do that? And I'm like, well, there's various laboratories out there. There's quite a few to choose from, and I suggest which ones maybe to use. And it's life-changing for everybody, like you say. I mean, wormers and everything, they're not that cheap anymore, and why give one if they don't need them?
Exactly. There's no reason to be giving things that the body doesn't need, because now you're putting extra stress on the kidney and the liver and other, organs in the body. So those are the things that age our dogs. When we put stress on those organs, that is what causes them to age more quickly. And when they can't digest things or they can't break things down, that is how their body starts forming, resistance, but also aging at the same time. And that's where the complications come in. And then that's, the aging process begins early, and then we lose our pets sooner.
I know, and they break our hearts, but
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time.
It's a hard one. It is a hard one. But the only cure I always think is the hair of the dog cure, so that you're still caring and you still have that same purpose, and you're still able to put food into a dog bowl in the mornings and still able to go out for your walks and everything, just in a way to honor the dogs that all came before.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh gosh. Well, Emily, look, thank you. This has been absolutely brilliant. I've really enjoyed this chat. So I do hope we can stay in touch.
Oh, I would love that very much.
Emily, all the links are in the show notes, by the way. But while you're here, what's your website and what's your Instagram handle?
My website is thedogwhoaskedformore.com, and you can find, links to all of the podcast platforms on there. You can also find links to my nutrition stuff and my training stuff on there. I do virtual training as well as in-person training. And the socials are The Dog Who Asked for More on TikTok and Instagram, but I also have a personal account where I talk more about life with dogs and specifically nutrition, and that is M Loves Dogs. So it's MEM_loves dogs.
Is that the one I'm following?
Yes.
Yes, I love that. I love that page. I think it's great. So I recommend everyone has a good look at that. Well, thank you so much, Emily, and we will be in touch very soon.
Thank you. I look forward to it.
That's our show. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, go on, rate and review the show wherever you tune into your podcast. Thanks again, of course, to Emily Breslin for joining us today. And all the links are in the show notes. Thanks to Mike Hansen for all the music and production as ever. And of course, if you're interested in finding out a bit more about Antinor, why not visit their website? And don't forget, at checkout, simply type in Anna Webb and get your special discount. And if you haven't already, go on, subscribe, because that way you'll never miss another show. Bye for now.